Let's take a closer look at the Micro-Galaxy Squadron Ahsoka Tano's Jedi Starfighter rear chase vehicle.
Varykino, living the Star Wars life.
Hello there, and thanks for visiting the Varykino YouTube channel. Today I'm going to take a closer look at the Micro-Galaxy Squadron Series 2 Ahsoka Tano's Jedi Starfighter. Now, as you can see from that shiny sticker there on the front, this is a rare chase version, one of 15,000. So not the rarest chase vehicles out there, but I'm still super excited to be able to get this one in hand. This one was a lucky chance find on store shelves. I really wanted to be able to add Ahsoka's ship to my collection, so I'm very glad that I was able to pick it up for retail. So before we dive in and open it up, I'm going to take a closer look at the packaging. So of course we have that fun Micro-Galaxy Squadron logo there on the front above the silver stripe that reads Ahsoka Tano's Jedi Starfighter, and this one is 0040. There is the number. This one is part of Series 2, as you can see with that blue stripe there on the side. So classic bubble style with a backing card for this vehicle. We can see the starship inside. We've got a nice clear view of that top. We have an insert here showing the ring, which I'm very keen to take a closer look at. We also have the little capsule here with the two minifigures, Ahsoka Tano and R7A7. Very keen to take a closer look at those too. And of course, that silver shiny sticker there looks very cool. I know some people may keep their Chase editions boxed, but personally, we are going to display our Micro-Galaxy Squadron collection all out with their packaging, stored away safely. We do keep our boxes, but we do want to get those vehicles out so we can display them all together. So of course, we've got a nice big bubble where we can see the ship on all the different sides. We've got some fun artwork there of the starship on the side, very cool. And then on the back we have some of the classic Jazware's packaging. We've got the collectible blueprint of Ahsoka's Jedi Starfighter that you can cut out and keep if you choose not to keep the whole box. We've got the sign here that the hyperdrive ring is removable. And we've got a button or something to press here. That's going to be interesting to check out. And we can see that you can put the Ahsoka minifig inside the cockpit. So the Ahsoka Tano's Jedi Starfighter is part of the Starfighter class, as the name would suggest. And we can see some of the other vehicles from this wave, including the Gauntlet Fighter, the Snowspeeder, and a variant of the X-Wing. Some very cool designs here. So that's about it for the packaging. I'm very excited. Let's get stuck in and take this vehicle out and get a closer look. Now that I have taken the Starfighter out of the box, we can take one last look at the packaging. We can see that backing card has a really cool Jedi Starfighter versus Droid Fighter artwork there with sort of asteroids in the background. Very cool. And of course we have Ahsoka's Jedi Starfighter there on the side because it looks like we have Obi-Wan's pictured there on the background and some fun droid fighters here on the side. Very cool. I like keeping the packaging for my Micro-Galaxy Squadron collection. So let's take a closer look at the vehicle itself. First thing I notice is the sort of dark brown, dark maroon color for Ahsoka's Jedi Starfighter. And unlike some of the other Jedi ships that have a slightly more sort of geometric pattern, Ahsoka's, when we turn it upright, has sort of a design inspired by the Jedi Order symbol. We can kind of see the wings here and that starburst and the lightsaber blade pointing out. I think that looks really cool. And of course, we have the Galactic Republic symbol here, very tidily as well. Now, one thing that I note, because of course we do not see Ahsoka in the live action movies, this starship follows the animated style with the astromech port in front of the cockpit rather than on the wing like we see on Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter in Attack of the Clones. It also makes it easier to put the little minifigure in there because these wings are too thin to really fit a minifigure here on the wing. So, of course, I like to look over the painted details and the sculpting details. So, because this is a chase, you're not going to find multiple of them in store unless you're exceedingly really lucky. So of course we found just the one. So I don't have my choice of sort of paint jobs. The one I found is the one I bought. So the first thing I notice is the weathering has just a few lines here where it is kind of pulled together or been smudged. It's not a deal breaker, but just not quite the cleanest weathering I've seen on some of the Micro Galaxy Squadrons. We can also see a little bit here where you can see where the weathering has sort of been wet and it's dried in sort of a certain patterns there, rather than sort of being an all sort of even wash there. We can see some segments where it's kind of pooled and clumped together more than others. But again, it's not like a thumbprint or anything like that. It's not obviously a flaw. It's just, you know, personal taste. I prefer it to be a little bit more even, but that's okay. If we turn it to this side, however, we get a slightly cleaner finish on this side. So for me, I might display mine this side, especially since we have that Republic symbol here. I think that this makes a better side to display in terms of the cleanliness and that symbol, which I think is very cool. We've also got some yellow painted details down the side here. They look fairly tidy, nice and symmetrical on both sides. We've got these sort of cutout bits where we would have, you know, starfires firing there. That looks pretty cool. So let's take a look at some of the underside. So fairly clean here. I can see a little bit of weathering on these paler painted sections. If there is weathering on the underside, I think there's just maybe a very slight hint, but it's fairly indistinguishable against the dark color here. I think I can sort of see it a little bit on this section, where it's kind of made it just a little bit paler in some segments. We've got some nice tidy yellow paint here on the engines, and silver paint around those ends there. Those look pretty tidy. Got a little bit of wash on the yellow that you can see in there. So the wash is over all of the paintwork. So pretty tidy there. So let's take a look at some of the articulation of this ship. It doesn't have quite as many sort of windows and things like that that open compared to some ships, but the first things I can see is that this one has some landing gear. So let's have a look at those. They all pop out nicely, not too stiff. We've got those 3 legs that pop out there, and it should land and pose pretty nicely for display. That looks pretty tidy, as we would expect. And then of course we have this cockpit, which should hopefully open up well. This is a pretty tight little cockpit window. Yes, very tight. Let's have a look. Okay, yep, that one was a little bit tighter, but it comes open and we can see inside. Nothing painted in there. It's all just the one color, which is a little bit different. Some of them have some painted details inside. This is just the maroon color, and I don't know if there's even a wash or anything in there. It's just plain plastic. We have some painted details over the cockpit, and because this is a fairly large cockpit and it's clear, we should be able to see when we put a minifigure inside. So let's take a look at the minifigures so we can assemble this all out nicely. So in the little plastic compartment that keeps the figures nice and tidy inside the packaging, we can see we have Ahsoka Tano and R7A7. So let's get these little tiny figures out and take a closer look at the paintwork. So of course these figures don't have a lot of articulation because of their very small size, but just enough to pose them within their vehicles. So here we have the astromech. He looks pretty brown. A similar sort of brown tone, maybe a dark maroon to match with the starship, a sort of a light grey dome and some yellow painted details, and nothing moves because he's just too small really. So there we go. Not too much on the back either, just a few details on the back of the dome. All in all, as I would expect for a figure of this very, very tiny size. So I'm just going to pop him in the top here, and he should fit in fairly well. Let's see. He's got a little hole on the underside, and there is a peg in the starship, so it's possibly just about sort of wiggling him in place. He doesn't want to go in very well. He's kind of, I think the peg on mine is a bit stuck, actually. He doesn't want to come back out, actually. He might just be a bit in there. I think the peg on mine's a bit stuck because I can't, that's about as, it's a very tight fit on this one, actually. I can kind of push him down, and that's about as far down as he wants. So I might need to play with that a little bit and see if I can get him to go down a little bit tighter. He wants to sit up a little higher. I haven't encountered that before. A lot of the astromechs kind of almost rattle a little bit. He is a tight one in there. Yes, his either the peg is a little bit bigger or his slot is a little small, so he's fitting in there quite snugly. And I can push this in and it's not really popping him out either. He's kind of wedged on the peg there. That's a little bit disappointing, but he still fits in there okay, and he might fit in there better if I play around with that a little bit better. Looking at the small little Ahsoka figure, we can see that she's got a pretty impressive paint job. I can just make it out here. There is a paint floor that is sort of, it's going to be way too small for the camera to pick it up, but she has an orange face. We've got the orange shoulders. This is her Clone Wars outfit from the latter series. That's done in the sort of this maroon color of her costume with matching boots. She's got grey leggings and blue and white patterns for her Togruta montrals and headdress there. So looking at this with my eyes very close up, there is a little squiggle, and I'll try and put a photo of this up because she is so small. There is a little squiggle of white paint on her left cheek that at first I thought maybe they had painted her white face markings on this incredibly tiny figure, but no, it is not on the right side of the figure. So that is a very small paint floor. But to be honest, it was kind of masquerading as part of her face marking, so I'm not too mad about that. Again, it's very small. And as you can see, the lines are painted on completely horizontally. There isn't, if I get the camera to focus on this tiny little figure, there's no sort of variation. These don't look like natural markings like we see on Ahsoka that have a bit more of a sort of a varied appearance. They are put on completely striped across, which I'm not too mad about. I think it could look very messy on such a small scale. We still get that blue and white striped effect for her. Of course, these figures are kind of just bonus add-ons to the vehicles. They're not really expected to be terribly complicated or well painted for their size. Just a point there, just to note that those stripes are just, you can particularly see on the back that they're just completely straight across. So like the other figures, she will have 2 points of articulation. Her arms will come up and she can bend at the waist. Oh, very tight actually. That took a bit of effort to make her sit down in a seated position so we can put her into this cockpit. So let's see if I can get her in. If we can get this up. Okay, there we go. And she should fit in there very easily. These types of cockpits, the figures just sort of fall in nice and easily. You can see her in there. There are no sort of handlebars or anything to pose her hands against. So just popping her in there seems to be about as much sort of posing as you can do. And then if we close that up, we can see Ahsoka quite well through the cockpit there, particularly with those striking blue and white markings. They highlight very well against the color tone of this ship. I think she looks very cute in there, particularly for the vehicles with the large clear cockpit windows. I like to put the figures inside because you can actually see some of them have very, very small windows. Some of the TIE fighters, you really can't really tell if there's a figure in the vehicle or not. So for this one, I will definitely keep Ahsoka in her starship when I display it. So there we have it, some minor posability, but then these don't really have any kind of flaps or anything else that really moves. So all in all, a very cool rendition of Ahsoka's starship. So next, let's take a look at the hyperdrive ring. So as some of these Jedi Starfighters that I've unboxed before, we'll take a look at see how easily this is going to snap together and how well it's going to snap on to the vehicle itself. So same color as the starship, this kind of brown dark maroon color with some white paint job here. We can see on the white panels the weathering. We've got some yellow striped paint application here that looks very nice and tidy. Quite impressed with that. We've got some blue engine detail on the end and just sort of hollow plastic there on the other end. Same again on the other side. Nice tidy yellow paint lines with the white section where we can just start to see some of that weathering showing through. All in all, very tidy. Not too much to say about the underside. We can just see some of the copyright information stamped there. So these have pegs to make it a little bit easier to figure out which one is up on the top and which one's down on the bottom. So let's get this assembled. So we can see on the ring there is a little peg off to one side that should help us put this on the right way, because if we look at the pieces, one has a paint line on it and the other one does not. So I'm just going to double check on the box so I don't assemble this incorrectly. It appears that the white line is on the top. So I had to just refresh my memory there so I don't assemble this the wrong way. And okay, so this one has the peg. I'm going to slot that in here. Let's see how easily that snaps in very nicely. That was not hard to assemble. And then again on the underside. Nice. Very easy. That went together nicely. Not fussy at all, which I like. Okay, so now's the tricky part. Snapping this on. I'm just going to put the landing gear away, which I like. Those are nice. They're not too hard to put in and out. Very nice. So this is the tricky part. It kind of just holds in with tension. There isn't like a button to kind of snap. This part always makes me a little anxious because it sounds like you're breaking something. Okay, so snapped in there well. Okay, it feels like that. There's just a little bit of wiggle room. But yeah, fits in there nicely. I think that looks really cool. And of course, we get to the point where I really wish these ones, this particular Jedi Starfighter vehicles with the hyperdrive rings, came with a stand, because I think they look so very cool with their rings, but you can't display them. They just sit like this on your shelf, and I think that is such a shame. I'm definitely going to have to pick up some fan-made stands or make something myself, because I really want to be able to display this with the hyperdrive ring attached. And I think that that's a shame that they haven't included that, or, you know, sold maybe like a box of stands for the various vehicles. I think that that would certainly be popular. So yeah, that is Ahsoka Tano's Jedi Starfighter from Series 2. I'm mixed about the chase vehicles. I kind of think it's a fun, you know, thing for collectors to hunt down, but on the same time, I don't like when collectors feel frustrated about missing out on particularly rare items. This one is not the rarest of the chases. This one is a silver chase rare, so there are 15,000 generally here in New Zealand. Things like from the first series, Moff Gideon's TIE Fighter, that one stuck around in New Zealand for a while. We were able to find it at a few stores. This one, I've yet to see another Ahsoka Jedi Starfighter in the wild. I only ever saw this one. I never saw any others, and I don't know if that's because just this particular vehicle is more popular than Moff Gideon's, or that has just come down to people really understanding the popularity of the chase vehicles, or uneven distribution. I don't know, but I'm so very glad that I was able to find this one. And I think she looks pretty cool. Just a few minor spots with the weathering, but I think this side with that extra Galactic Republic symbol there makes it an interesting side to display, so I'm not too annoyed about that, and it certainly is nice and clean on this side. Just lacks a stand. So for comparison, I have here the Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi Starfighter from the first series. And I'll do just a little bit of a hand-in-hand comparison shot and put up a few photos to be able to sort of see these side by side. So I think it's really interesting. You can see just how weathered the Obi-Wan Starfighter is compared to Ahsoka's. We can see similar colors with that sort of maroon. Ahsoka's is a much darker one, almost brown, depending on the light that I'm looking at. But they do appear to be very, very similar in sculpt, and I'd have to, look at some stills side by side to see if all of those detail lines, just looking at it, it appears to be the same sculpt as best I can tell, just by looking at them in my hands. Things like those hyperdrive details on Obi-Wan's there, black, and we can see them yellow over here. He has a few more colors and the weathering, but in terms of scale and detail, I think these are pretty much the same. If I stand them like this, we should be able to sort of see them together there. And again, you might be able to tell the droid on this one fits in nicely, and I can pop him up and down and he kind of rattles a little bit. I can pop him easily in and out. And then on the Ahsoka one, I think I might have jammed him in there. The peg just didn't want to fit in that a little bit, so I'm going to have to try and sort of pry him out and see if I can wriggle him in there. But that was a very tight peg, so I'm hoping I can get this one sitting down just a little bit further so it is sort of properly seated in there and not as high as he is. So that's just a small minor note on my particular vehicle. But other than that, I think these are pretty much identical. Of course, we would expect, the Jedi Starfighters would be sort of standard issue for different characters that have painted them up in different colors. I think they look very cool, but again, could do with a stand. We can sort of see them opposed together. It's not a great look. Personally, for now, I'm just going to have to pop them off their hyperdrive ring and have them on the shelf together, with the hope of being able to pick up some stands in the future. But yeah, I'm building a little bit of a Jedi fleet here. I would really, really love for them to make Anakin's modified Jedi Starfighter from the Clone Wars 2003 micro series with those additional engines and that really cool blue and white stripes. Fingers crossed they'll do that one. They did the Munilinst 10 Clone Wars version of the Republic gunship, so I know that they have done vehicle variations from that Clone Wars micro series, so fingers crossed for Anakin's starship as well. But overall, I am so excited to have Ahsoka Tano's Jedi Starfighter in my Micro Galaxies Squadron collection. We'll have a few photos up on our blog shortly to show off those small details. Overall, I think this is fun. There's nothing broken. Just with that, I'm just going to have to fiddle with this one and get him sitting in there properly. But that's just, those little plastic pegs, all it takes is a tiny little bit of plastic in the wrong place and suddenly they don't fit. So just a small thing there. But I am so excited to have another rare chase vehicle for my collection, and I had to have Ahsoka as a big fan of her character. Of course, I'm very excited for the upcoming live action show, so I'm keen to add as much Ahsoka Tano collectibles to my collection, so I'm glad I was able to find this chase. Thank you so much for watching my unboxing and mini comparison with the Obi-Wan Starfighter. Check out our other videos for more Micro Galaxy Squadron unboxings. Catch you in the next video, and as always, may the Force be with you.
If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.